The buzz around Ashton Jeanty and the Bears just keeps picking up steam. We're a month away from the NFL draft, and there's another interesting piece of evidence that suggests Jeanty could see himself in Chicago. Over the weekend, a clip went viral from back when Eric Bieniemy was coaching running backs for the Vikings. The clip showed him going after Adrian Peterson. Yes, that Adrian Peterson, because he was late to practice. Bieniemy didn't care that Peterson was a star. He held him accountable, set the tone, and made it clear that no one was above the standard. That's who Bieniemy is. He's tough, demanding, and not every player loves that. But it's exactly the kind of mentality a team needs. Now here's where it gets interesting. Jeanty saw that clip and liked it on social media. Maybe it means nothing, maybe it means everything, but it's at least a small sign that he respects Bieniemy's coaching style. And if that's the case, it says a lot about the kind of player he wants to be. The best athletes welcome tough coaching. They want to be challenged, pushed, and made better. If Jeanty has that mindset, then he could fit perfectly with the Bears. The momentum toward Chicago is real. It's a big market, a potential top 10 pick, and a chance to be a key piece of an offense led by Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. The Bears already did work in free agency, focusing on the trenches. They still have 2 second-round picks and a third-rounder to keep building, but adding a dynamic back like Jeanty would make a lot of sense. Why would he want to be in Chicago? A few reasons. First, Ben Johnson is running the offense, and he's proven he can scheme up a strong rushing attack. Detroit was top 6 in rushing the last 2 years under him. He made it work with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. There's no reason he couldn't do the same in Chicago, especially with a young quarterback. Second, playing with Caleb Williams has to be appealing. If you're Jeanty, you could see yourself growing alongside him, forming a young, explosive backfield duo. It's the kind of situation that could turn into something special. So, the signs are there. The fit makes sense. Now, we wait and see if it happens. The Bears might finally be on the verge of becoming a fun offensive team, and a big part of that could be the growing connection between Caleb Williams and Ashton Jeanty. Earlier in the offseason, right after the NFL season wrapped up, these two were spotted hanging out. And before anyone overreacts to that wrap Caleb had on his wrist, it was just a minor cyst removal. No big deal. He's been training for weeks now. But the bigger story is that these two have been spending time together. One thing that keeps popping up, they like each other's posts on social media. A lot. Now sure, plenty of players follow each other, hit the like button, and move on. But this isn't just a one-time thing. It's happening often. It's clear they're keeping up with what the other is doing. Caleb recently liked one of Jeanty's posts, which might not seem like much, but in today's world, that's how players show support. They're engaged with each other's careers. That kind of early connection could turn into something big if they end up playing together in Chicago. So while this isn't breaking news, it's another small piece of the puzzle. These guys seem to get along. And if they do end up as teammates, it could be the start of something special. One of the biggest selling points for Ashton Jeanty in Chicago, he can be the lead back in a true 1-2 punch. Not every team that drafts him will give him that role right away, but the Bears could be the perfect landing spot. Some people question whether he can dominate at the next level because he played at Boise State. But let's not overthink this. He shredded Oregon, put up solid numbers against Penn State, despite running behind an offensive line that gave him zero help, and racked up more than 90 yards after contact in that game alone. The guy is a proven playmaker, and it's not like he played on an all-time great Boise State team. In fact, it wasn't even close. He carried that squad to the college football playoff. If he comes to Chicago, he won't have to do everything himself. He'd be the lead back over DeAndre Swift, but Ben Johnson has already shown he likes using multiple backs. Just look at how he balanced David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit. Jeanty and Swift could work the same way. It would keep Jeanty fresh, which is key considering he had nearly 400 touches last season. That's a heavy workload at any level. Jeanty brings the full package: better vision, better contact balance, and the ability to grind out tough yards while still having the speed to break big plays. Swift is explosive but inconsistent with his reads, sometimes bouncing outside when the lane isn't there. A reduced role for Swift could make him more effective, while Jeanty takes over as the primary back without having to carry as much of a load as he did last season. And if the Bears decide to move on from Swift in 2025, Jeanty can take on even more responsibility in year 2. Now, let's talk about something else that matters: contending right away. No one is saying the Bears are about to win the Super Bowl, but they have a real shot to be a playoff team. If Caleb Williams develops the way they expect, and this new coaching staff proves to be as competent as their resumes suggest, there's no reason Chicago can't be in the mix. The two teams most linked to Jeanty in the draft? The Bears and the Raiders. And while Vegas has made some solid moves, hiring Pete Carroll, adding John Spytek, bringing in Geno Smith, they still play in a division that belongs to the Chiefs. Kansas City has owned the AFC West for nearly a decade. Meanwhile, the NFC North is far more unpredictable. The division has been up for grabs in recent years, and the Bears finishing second with a 10-win season isn't crazy. That's a tougher sell for the Raiders. Jeanty would have to be the workhorse in Vegas, carrying a massive load from day one. In Chicago, he'd get a chance to ease in while still being the lead back. That has to be appealing for a guy who just put his body through nearly 400 touches last year. When you stack it all up, the Bears are in a better position than the Raiders. And honestly, you could even argue they're in a better spot than Dallas, despite the Cowboys picking at number 12. The Bears have been aggressive in improving their roster, while Dallas has been stuck in neutral. Big contracts eating up cap space, no major upgrades, just kind of running it back with the same core. If you're Ashton Jeanty and you want a real role on a team that can win, Chicago makes the most sense. A creative offensive mind in Ben Johnson, a young quarterback in Caleb Williams, a city that's starving for a good offense. This isn't his decision. He'll go where he gets drafted. But when you look at the teams heavily linked to him, the Bears have the best sales pitch. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room, the chance to be a star in a massive market. The Bears don't just need an offensive playmaker, they need a face of the franchise. If Caleb Williams is the guy who turns this team around, he becomes an international superstar. The same could be true for Jeanty. If he comes in, plays at a high level, and helps Chicago become a contender, the spotlight on him will be enormous. Sure, Vegas has its own appeal. The Raiders, in theory, could be a sleeping giant in terms of star power. Big market, entertainment capital, all that. But the Bears? They have history. They have a massive, loyal fan base desperate for something to believe in. If Jeanty is part of the turnaround, he won't just be a good player, he'll be a legend in Chicago. So yeah, it makes sense that he's showing interest in the Bears. The signs are there. Chicago brought him in for a visit at the Combine, scheduled him for a top 30 visit. Clearly they like him. They need a running back. Ben Johnson wants a running back. Jeanty seems to be looking at Chicago as a prime landing spot. It all lines up. If he's sitting there at number 10, I'd say there's at least a 50-50 chance the Bears pull the trigger, maybe even higher. And if that happens, Chicago fans should be excited. That doesn't mean it's Jeanty or bust. There are other options. Maybe they go offensive line with Will Campbell. Maybe they add a pass rusher. Maybe they trade up or down. But if Jeanty is the pick, the Bears are getting a dynamic, high-impact player in an offense that's built to use him the right way. We'll see how it plays out, but the interest is real, and the fit makes a lot of sense.